Shalom, ladies. My name is Lisa Bailey, wife of Robert Bailey. Our ministry is Bailey Family Ministry, which is a music ministry with our 8 kids, adult kids. They're all adults. Youngest one is 18, so I have no more little ones. And I'm just very honored and excited to be a part of the first annual Adorning the Bride conference, and I just am excited to see what Yah has in store and what he's going to do through this conference. We live in Southeast Oklahoma, and we've been there for about 13 years, and we came into Torah about 2009, 2010, and it's been a wonderful journey, constantly learning and growing, and it's just been very, very exciting to have come into the truth. What I'm going to talk to you about today is the inner adorning of the bride. Of course, when I say the inner adorning, I'm talking about that which cannot be seen with the eyes, but can be beheld on a spiritual level, and usually over time will reveal itself in subtle and maybe not so subtle ways. When we think of a bride, we think of a woman who is adorned in her white dress, which she's taken plenty of time and effort into making herself look beautiful for her bridegroom. And of course, the outer appearance is very important on that day. But what about the inner woman? What I'm talking about is preparing ourselves inwardly for Yeshua, our bridegroom. What am I even referring to when I speak of the inner woman? Well, it's the hidden person of the heart. That which you cannot see outwardly, but it reveals itself through actions, deeds, and words. The heart is the ruling center of man. Mark 7:21 through 24 says, "For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil reasonings, adulteries, whorings, murders, thefts, greedy desires, wickedness, deceit, indecency, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these wicked matters come from within and defile a man." So we see that all of those things are man's fleshly heart that's not being controlled by the Ruach, that's not under the control of Yah. Okay, so those are the things that we will bring forth if we are relying on ourselves. Those are some of the things. The trials of everyday life will test us and reveal what's in our hearts. It will reveal whether we are being led by the Spirit of Yah or whether we are being led by our own desires. If we are being led by Yah, then our spiritual fruit will be good. Galatians 5:22 through 24 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And those who are of Messiah have impaled the flesh with its passions and the desires." So if we contrast that to what was said in Mark about the heart, we have very, very different fruit. So that tells us it's very important that our heart is in the right place, being ruled by the right spirit. Okay? His fruit and his ways will not grow and flourish in us unless we work on cultivating our hearts. We can fill our head with all kinds of knowledge of his word, and it might be very accurate, Yet, knowledge alone does not produce spiritual fruit. That's very important to recognize. When we come into this movement, there's such a relearning of what we thought was truth. Many of us haven't come from Christian background, and what we were taught doesn't line up. And so we go on this real search for knowledge, and that's important. We ought to have an accurate knowledge of the Bible. We are to study to show ourselves approved. That's very important. But I don't want us to think that that alone will produce the spiritual fruit that is spoken of in Galatians. Yes, knowledge of the Bible, His truths, and His ways is extremely important, but we are not to stop there. Yeshua knew that our heart was the problem. Throughout history, our ancestors, Israel, though knowing His truth and His ways, would stray from that truth. It had not taken root in their hearts. They had the law, they knew the truth, but they strayed. Many of us have discovered His Torah, but are continuing to walk in the stubbornness of our own hearts. We know that Yeshua gives us the parable of the seeds in the Gospels of the Brit Hadashah. This is what Yeshua says about the heart in Matthew 13:15. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But do we have a heart ready to receive His word and experience growth? First of all, we must love Him with all our heart, soul, and mind. When we give Him our whole heart, then pleasing the Most High becomes our desire, to please Him and not ourselves. It has to be more important than pleasing ourselves. That is hard because it truly goes against the sinful nature of man. Our nature from birth is to satisfy self. So putting that aside takes supernatural power, which is found in our Elohim. When we set out to grow a garden, the soil that we plant in is crucial to the health and success of the plants. We wouldn't want the soil to have too many rocks. We want it to have the correct nutrients that will favor growth of the plants. It needs to have the correct pH and not be too sandy nor have too much clay. And now over time, as we amend the soil, it gets better and better and will support healthy plants. Well, if our hearts are full of unhealthy things such as anger, bitterness, jealousy, lust, rebellion, and the like, it will not produce healthy spiritual fruit. So it is very important for us to weed those types of things out of our hearts and allow our hearts to be cultivated by Yeshua, our Messiah. And just like the garden, over time, we will find that we are producing better and tastier fruit. In other words, spiritual fruit. What can we do to cultivate our hearts spiritually? Well, Deuteronomy 4:29 tells us, but if from thence thou shalt seek Yah, your Elohim, and shall find him, when you search for him with all your heart and with all your being. And likewise, Jeremiah 29:13 says, and you shall seek me and shall find me when you search for me with all your heart. Okay? So not a half-hearted effort. We can't have one foot in the world and one foot in him. We have to fully commit ourselves to his ways. So you can say that our heart is the control center. And Yah says that our control center should be under his command. When we think of our physical heart, we know that it is what keeps us alive. It pumps blood, which has oxygen and nutrients, to every organ of our body. The blood that flows to those organs needs to be healthy in order to sustain life. When people become septic or have septicemia, which is blood that is infected, it's a complete blood infection, and all the blood that's being pumped is tainted. And that is a very, very dangerous condition. And oftentimes, people don't survive that type of situation, okay? So, just as the heart keeps us alive physically, on the spiritual side, the heart is also at the helm. It is a crucial component to being spiritually alive. So what can we do to cultivate our hearts spiritually? First of all, we need to have an active prayer life. And we need to stay in the Word, connecting with Yah, our Elohim. We see that when Yeshua was here on earth, that he prayed. And he encouraged others to pray. In 1 Thessalonians 5:17, we are told to pray without ceasing. So if the Messiah prayed, how much more do we need to have an active prayer life? Now let's talk about this prayer life for a moment. When I speak of an active prayer life, I'm talking about an active and living relationship with our Elohim. And I know that we pray for our families, we pray for others, we pray for our day, we pray when situations arise. And all of that is absolutely important, because we are to pray without ceasing. But ladies, I'm also talking about really spending time in his presence, sitting at the feet of Yeshua, our Messiah, learning of him, truly drawing nourishment and life from him. So sometimes this will include just sitting silently in his presence, allowing him to fill us with his Ruach, speak to our hearts. We also pour our hearts out to him. When we are experiencing difficulties, that's the place to go. Pour out your heart. He hears, okay? He hears. So this is very important. And with the times we're living in right now, this is crucial to our spiritual life and should not be neglected. So having an active prayer life, very important. We know that Yeshua is the Word. His Word nourishes our spirit and should not be neglected. I'm pretty sure that you ladies are aware of this, but I did not want to leave out the importance of reading his Word on a daily basis. We eat to nourish our physical bodies so that we have the strength and energy to do what needs to be done on a daily basis. Likewise, If we are to be spiritually strong, then we have to nourish our spirit with spiritual food. So that's also an important component. We cannot neglect the spiritual food. And number 2, learn to yield to his spirit, the Ruach. Now this involves not giving way to the flesh, but allowing the spirit to overcome the flesh. We should not allow our emotions or moods to rule us and determine our actions and reactions to life. I realize that, I'm not saying we would exercise this perfectly, but it should be what we are working toward, okay? Not given to outbursts of anger. When we feel that coming on, we can call on him, we can pray, we can just allow him to bring peace and take away the anger, okay? But we have to not be so quick to act or quick to speak. This can be overcome by yielding ourselves to the spirit of our living Elohim. This is an ongoing journey throughout our lives. This is something that we will struggle with for the rest. We will be walking, trying to perfect this. It's not a one-time thing and it's all over. It's a daily walk, okay? It's a daily walk. Something we must continue to press forward in the face of failure, setbacks, and the like. Having an active prayer life and regular Bible reading will support our accomplishing this goal of learning to yield to the Spirit. So you see, they go together, okay? So you can't neglect one and then expect to have number 2, be able to accomplish number 2. So they go together. And the third thing I want to say, ladies, is be discerning about the activities and the people we allow to have space in our lives. Let me say that not everyone you know is good for your spiritual life. So we need to recognize this and make sure that we don't allow people or things to monopolize our time if they are a hindrance to our spiritual walk. This may require some adjustments in some of the areas of our lives, whether it's the people or groups that we are spending time with, or things that we might allow ourselves to partake of, such as movies, TV shows, music, and sometimes it could be too much social media. So we have to be careful that we don't allow social media to take over too much of a chunk of our lives. And I know we all use social media, obviously. You found this conference on social media. And so I'm not at all discouraging its use, but I'm saying use it wisely and don't allow it to get out of hand. Don't allow it to take control. If you have to remove that social media app off your phone for a time so that you can spend some time otherwise or cut down on that use for a time, then do that. Because this is much too important to allow social media to eat into our spiritual life. Whatever it is, ladies, exercise wisdom and discernment in your life. Protect your heart. And in closing, I'd like to say, seeking Him with our whole hearts involves our entire being. We set our desire towards Him and pursue Him with our entire being. That is to say, allowing our thoughts, emotions, inclinations, and appetites to be controlled by Him. Because remember, if He has our heart, which is our control center, then He is at the helm. He directs this living, breathing creature, this living being that I am. So let us be adorned inwardly by His Spirit. Thank you, ladies. The 3 takeaways were the 3 areas I gave for cultivating the heart, and I would just repeat them: an active prayer life and staying in the Word, learning to yield to His Spirit, and being discerning about the activities and people we allow to have space in our lives. Enjoy the rest of the conference, ladies. It has been my pleasure to present this to you. Shalom.